What's up, everybody? You have entered into the gray area. My name is Shari Nycole, and I'm so glad to talk to all of you guys today. Happy Sunday. Won't He Do It by Corinne Hawthorne. Now, let me tell you guys, that's one of my favorite gospel songs. Shout out to Corinne Hawthorne, who's doing some amazing things right now. She's got a new single out. So make sure you guys stream the music. We got to support each other. We got to support our artists. But speaking of Won't He Do It, I'm really excited. I'm excited because our president actually did something that I think is it's all right. He signed an executive order for the coronavirus relief. Now it's actually like it includes 4 executive actions, but one of those allows for the COVID unemployment benefit to continue. Now, it will not be $600, but it will be $400. Now, let me tell you guys why that's significant. Because the COVID relief money, the $600 that a lot of people were receiving during this pandemic, expired July 31st. Okay? So that means that there were millions of people who went this past week who did not receive that extra benefit. I'm sure that hurt. So now we're in a position where people can get that relief again, pay some bills, get back on their feet. So I'm very, very, very happy that this got resolved to some degree. It's not $600, but it's also not $0. So let's thank God for that. Won't He do it? And one of the things that really sticks out to me, I was, and I might be going on a tangent, but I'm going to bring it back around. I was watching Pastor Stephen Furtick, the Elevation Church live broadcast on Facebook today. And one of the things that he spoke about was God's timing, and how God's timing, even though sometimes it doesn't line up with what our timing, what we think things should happen, and when we think things should happen, it's still a teaching tool for all of us. And so I encourage everybody, including myself, I'm going to encourage myself right now, that just because things don't happen when you think they should, doesn't mean God isn't mindful of you. And it's always an opportunity for us to step away, evaluate what's going on, evaluate what didn't go on, and learn a valuable lesson. So I want to shout out my Instagram followers right now. I'm letting them in just for the first little part of the show. And after the show, and after I cut them off, because I will cut them off shortly. I love you guys. Shout out to my Instagram followers. You guys can follow me at Shari_Nycole on Instagram. That's SHARI_NYCOLE. I'm gonna drop them in a minute. I love them, but they need to download the Philly's Favor app or go on philliesfavor.com to check out my conversation with one of my favorite gospel artists. I'm just talking about the Stellar Award winner, the Dove Award winner. His name is Brian Courtney Wilson, and he's got a lot of amazing things going on. So I'm going to talk to him in a bit. So guys, God is still working, and I know it's a tough time for everybody, but there's some great things happening. And so understand that even though these are trying times, God is still in the blessing business. He's certainly been good to all of us, because if you can hear my voice, that's enough reason to be grateful. So with that said, I want you guys to listen to one of my absolute favorite songs from Brian Courtney Wilson. I'm going to usher him in the right way. It's called Worth Fighting For. Check it out. That's my jam. Worth Fighting For from Brian Courtney Wilson, who I will be talking to in a bit. Guys, I'm just really, really excited about all the amazing things that God is doing in my life, and hopefully in your life. You are listening to, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Gray Area. You have entered into The Gray Area. I'm your host, Shari Nycole. Super, super happy to be talking to you guys today. And I want to shout out my board op. His name is Max. He's amazing. He always just makes sure I'm good. I was having some feedback in my ears at the top of the show, and he fixed it. So thank you, Max. It sounds much, much better now. And speaking of fighting for, our schools, our children are worth fighting for. I personally don't have children, but I have nieces and nephews who I love to tears, love to death. And the thought of them going back into the school is really something that actually terrifies me. As we hit 5 million, you heard it right, 5 million COVID cases here in the United States, there are still schools that are going to meet and be in session in the building. I don't agree with that. What do you guys think? Do you agree with that? I don't. Interesting thing that happened this week. A young lady, a high school student, took a photo.
Favor 100.
In her took a photo in the hallway of her school, and I guess the periods were changing. Hallway full of kids, many of which didn't have a mask on. It was unbelievable. They were shoulder to shoulder. It was nuts. Took a picture, and she ended up getting suspended. Now, the story went all over the news, and eventually her suspension was overturned. But it raises the point, we have to keep in mind that in this season, God is calling us to move differently. And that's not a bad thing. And if we're resistant to what he's asking us to do, we'll continue to fall into the same traps that we're experiencing in our world right now, which is the cases continue to go up. So our children should be our number one priority. That's what they should be. So them being in schools, many of them young children don't really understand the concept of social distancing. At least I don't think they do. I have young nieces and nephews too, that they don't look to me like they understand how to keep up, that they need to not hug on and be next to their friend, and they have to wear a mask all day. So I'm really keeping a lot of these families in my thoughts, in my prayers, my family, obviously, and all of you with young children. I really feel for you. And even, we have to think about it like this too. It's not just about kids not going to school. It's about parents having to homeschool their children. It's about them trying to find options to be able to work jobs and also be present and teach their children now. It's a real thing. And so whether you have children or not, I want to encourage us all to kind of keep that on our hearts and minds right now. Really, really, really think about that. And if there's a way that you can serve someone, a parent, or somebody, whether it's a single mother or a family, anything that you can do to kind of help serve in that capacity, if God puts that on your heart, that would be super, super dope for you to do. So just throwing it out there. I'm thinking about the youngsters today. I have them on my mind, and I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I don't want to ruffle any feathers, but this is the gray area. And one of the things that we do here in the gray area is we tackle topics that might be a little bit taboo, that may be topics that we don't traditionally talk about in the faith-based community, but we want to talk about. But somehow we avoid those conversations, whether it's fear or whether it's us feeling like we'll be reprimanded for having those certain type of conversations. But I believe that these are the very conversations we need to have to live holistic lives. And so the whole purpose of this show is to inform, to engage, to entertain, to empower you, and to enlighten. And by enlightening a person, you're ultimately providing them with information that they either did not have, or you're providing them with a perspective about something that they did not already have. So with that said, let's not be churchy right now, okay? Just because you're a person of faith, okay? Just because you're a Christian, and maybe you're not, and you're listening. Either way, I love you. Does not mean that you don't listen to certain types of music that's not gospel music. Let's just be real about it. We're in a gray area. So Nicki Minaj and Cardi B came out with a song this week that has social media buzzing. Okay. Social media is going nuts. And it's really about the way in which they express their sexuality. So first of all, in the church, we need to, in my opinion, we need to stop avoiding that word, because we need to deal with that word. And so a lot of people are on different ends of the aisle about the lyrics in the song. They are explicit lyrics, but it brings to the point, especially when it comes to women, and I'll just deal with Black women in particular. Is there a way in which we can own our sexuality in a healthy way? Especially women of faith. Is there a way that we can own our sexuality in a healthy way? Is there? Really think about that. And with that being said, have we kind of shortchanged our generations, especially this generation, my generation? I'm a millennial. Yeah, I gave myself away. It's okay. Don't turn the dial. But have we been shortchanged because we weren't necessarily bred, in faith-based families that had these type of conversations? If I am not I believe that if I'm not in a position to have the knowledge to affirm myself as a woman, as a Black woman, as a sexual being, then I'm putting myself in a position to give that responsibility to someone else. Be it a man. What if that man breaks my heart? What if I'm looking for that man to affirm me. Oh, I am so sorry, guys. It's not Nicki Minaj. It's Meg Thee Stallion. Charge it to my head and not my heart. I apologize. It's Meg Thee Stallion. Hey, nobody come after me. The Nicki Minaj, whatever her people are, don't come after me. Don't come after me, because you know the Beehive and the Nicki Minaj people and all those, they come after you. So I meant to say Meg Thee Stallion and Cardi B. So I apologize for that. So what I was saying was, if we are looking, what ends up happening is you end up looking to someone else to affirm you in a way that you should be equipped to do yourself, which can be very, very dangerous. So I'm not necessarily in support of the lyrics. I'm not. That's just a personal choice of mine. But I do think this raises a point that we need to have more open conversations about what owning and understanding our sexuality looks like, especially as people of faith, because what you don't want to do is raise up a generation that has no level of understanding about that and expect them to be able to function fully in the world as independent individuals. That to me, in my opinion, is you're playing with fire there. And I think it's important that we equip our young people with what they need to be able to sustain in this world that exposes them to so many different things. It's better you tell them. It's better you explain to them than the TV explains to them. It's better you explain to them before they listen to WAP by Meg Thee Stallion and Cardi B. It's better that you explain that to them. Just my opinion, just my thoughts. That's all. You don't have to agree, because it's not about that. The gray area isn't about agreement. It's simply about us meeting in the middle, meeting in a place that many of us are afraid to go. That's what this is about. So I want you guys to think about that. That's it. You don't have to come up with an opinion right now. You don't have to agree with me. I'm just throwing it out there because I want everybody to really think about what I'm saying. And then let's have some conversations about it. You can always have conversations about it. Hit me up on Instagram at Shari, SHARI _ Nycole, NYCOLE. Let's talk about it. I may go live about this later too, just to kind of continue this conversation. And for those who are just tuning in, I am so excited because in the matter of like probably seconds, I have one of my favorite gospel artists, also Chicago's own, because I hail from Chicago. His name is Brian Courtney Wilson. He's going to be joining me to talk about all the amazing things he has going on, including the release of his song Inner City Blues, which is a adaptation of Marvin Gaye's Make Me Wanna Holler. So I'm really, really excited about that and having him on the show. And, you know, one of the things about Brian that I absolutely love is he's unafraid. He's very much unafraid to go where traditional gospel music would otherwise say he can't go. And that's why I really admire what he's been able to do in this industry. I tuned into his interview with Selena Johnson for her Music Monday the other week, and one of the things that they talked about was the level of flexibility he has with his voice. And I just think that a voice like that should not be limited. And he talked about, you know, as a creative and as a gospel artist and a man of faith, not putting limits on himself, but at the same time, you know, not always still being mindful that there's still a message there, and that's the message of Christ. So with that said, without further ado, I want to bring in one of my favorite, and I'm going to keep saying it, one of my favorite gospel artists. He's a Stellar Award winner. He's a double award winner. His name is Brian Courtney Wilson. Brian, what's going on?
I'm good, Shari. How you doing? I'm one of your favorites.
I'm fantastic.
I didn't know that.
Yes, I love you. I absolutely love you. Let me tell you something.
Shari? Is it like 20, 30, 40 people?
No. Let me tell you something. I'm an old soul, so I'm very picky when it comes to music. I don't just listen to anybody. I'll give everybody a chance, but when we talk about repetitive listening, no, that's a short list. But you're definitely on the list. I wanted to play one of my favorite songs of yours, Nothing Occurs to God. We didn't have it. I didn't get it over to my board op on time. I'm going to take total responsibility, Max. It is not your fault, but that just shows you how deep into your catalog I go.
Yeah, you're on the B side right there. You're on the B side. I like that song a lot too.
Yeah, and you know, but enough about me, Brian. How are you? How's everything going with you, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm honored to be speaking with you today. I'm glad you are giving us the space to speak. And I'm just blessed and thankful. All things considered, I try to discipline myself to just stay grateful.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you have we're gonna play this cut in a bit because I just think it's extremely powerful and amazing what you did to the record. But you released your adaptation of Marvin Gaye's Inner City Blues, Make Me Wanna Holler, and I want you to kind of break down your motivation for releasing that record, and also what you hope that what the impression is that you hope it leaves on anybody who listens to it.
Thank you for the question. The motivation is that it's still relevant. Even after 50 years since Marvin Gaye has written a song, it still speaks. I had recorded it months ago, and I didn't intend to put it out for wide distribution. But given everything that's gone on, I just felt like we had to say it. I felt like it was important that I model saying it too as a gospel artist, as an artist in the Christian space, because I think sometimes we're, I'll say, encouraged to kind of stick to praise and worship and stick to topics that are in the Bible. But I think we got to be able to speak to all of it, and that's what I hope people hear from it. Is that, man, it's okay to lament what's going on. It's okay to grieve it. I can't think of a better place to bring it up in our churches, where we say God is present. In fact, that's the hope, that I'm not just grieving. I'm not just crying out, but I'm heard when I do it. And so that's what I hope people take away from the song.
One of the things that you said in response to this record that I think is so prolific that I want to kind of jump into, you said, quote, "I pray this reminds us that we will holler and be heard. It's our time to figure out what comes after the holler and help bring the change our nation so badly needs." In regards to how we have responded, in light of some of the things that have gone on as it relates to social and racial injustice in this country, the hollering that has happened, how do you think we're faring after the holler right now, and what still needs to happen?
In some ways it's hard to say because it has been going on for so long. The things that we are lamenting and protesting right now, they've been going on for so long. In fact, for perspective, I called my dad, to talk to him about it. He's in his 80s now, to talk to him about how he felt about what was going on. And as disappointed as he was in the fact that, again, these things have been going on for so long, he said he was encouraged by the multicultural cry. Like being able to see people of different races all saying together, yes, Black Lives Matter, and the implications of that statement. And the fact that I think that people are coming to recognize that these injustices are not just about one race, like they can come for everybody. The people that seek to subjugate, they'll come for anybody that they feel like they can leverage, they feel like they can exploit for their gain. So he was encouraged in that respect, and it encouraged me. I think that's why it's important that we still give voice to our elders, because I think they can help us have perspective in times like these.
Let me ask you this, and for me, this did surprise me a bit. But were you at all surprised with how, and were you at all initially surprised with how diversified the outcry was, especially in response to George Floyd's death, or murder, I should say?
I was, what's the word? Cautious about it, because when I saw it, I just wasn't sure if everybody was feeling it the same way I was feeling it. It's like I know most African Americans are feeling it a certain way, and I know what that feels like. But I couldn't really gauge right off why it was multicultural and what people were doing in the street, what it was about. Is this a trend, or is this something where it's a heartfelt thing? Like, man, we all feel like something is wrong, something is discordant, and we have to fix it to move forward. So that's how I felt. But I'll tell you what, I marched when Bun B and Trader Truth connected with the city and had the march in Houston. When I tell you that was like, I would say 2 months into the quarantine when that happened, right? I'm trying to just figure out the dates and stuff, but I hadn't been going anywhere. I had been, real strict with the quarantine. But I remember my wife looking at me, because she was driving that in the house. She said, I know you got to go out there. I think you ought to take Josh out there too, and we'll just go walk.
Wow.
And so it was like she knew we needed to go be a part of that, and I'm so glad we were. I'm so glad that this ocean of people were out there marching in solidarity, saying, man, this cannot go on. This cannot go on. And with my next breath, I'm going to do what I can to at least shout it out that this can't go on. And it was something cathartic about being together doing that. And there were all different types of colors out there doing that. All different demographics even, from Tillman Fertitta, the owner of the Rockets, to people I've seen working down at the Whataburger. It was all types of people out there saying at the same time, man, we got to do something different than what's going on. So now the challenge is, so what do we do? How do we move forward? How do we figure out a way to, because that's what it's going to come down to, Shari, figuring out a way to regard your neighbor more than yourself. Yeah. I gotta take my mind off what I think I need and really have the courage to see, can I help you with what you need, even if it costs me something.
Yeah. One of the things that part of your story that really just stuck out to me was, your wife recognizing that as a black man and as a black father, there was something that needed to happen with you and your son in regards to what was going on. You guys needed to express, you guys needed to holler. With that being said, do you feel like the things that have gone on, everything that's happened in light of COVID-19 has caused black women to kind of come to understand a bit more what the ails of the black man are?
The ails of the black man.
Yeah. Do you think we missed we haven't heard you fully, and do you think that maybe we might be hearing you a little bit better now?
Oh, Shari, I don't know what to say to that, because I don't think you can lump black men monolithically, and say, this is what ails the black man, because, and I'll give you an example, I got these plants I just put in my workspace where I'm talking to you from, and I needed these plants. It's like I can't even express to you why I needed these plants. I was telling my wife, she can't really explain why I need them, but she knew I needed to go get them, so she let me go get them. But if I told some of my homeboys that these plants, this is what we got to get, they'd be like,
are you crazy?
I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I think men need, I think more than anything, man, everybody, black men, black women, we need love. And love starts with, I want you to be better. I want your next breath to be better than your last breath. And so I care enough to lean into you and see what that means for you. I think we all need that. And I think some of what black men have been subject to in this country is we've been lumped into a monolith. We've been lumped into these boxes and frames that do not really speak to all of who we are and all of what we need. And really, I don't even think sometimes gives us the space to figure out what we need. A lot of times it's like you're socialized into saying, okay, you need to be this, you need to do this, you need to present this way, and this will make you a man. You know what I mean? But maybe there's more. Maybe there are whispers from God that you can't hear through the noise sometimes, and you got to really spend some time and get quiet with it. I know for me, that's been one of the blessings of this quarantine, of this time and space with myself, and to get real with myself.
That was like a dope breakdown. No, that was dope. And to all the brothers out there, you heard it from Brian Courtney Wilson. You didn't hear it from me. Get you some flowers, okay?
Man,
get some good flowers.
Because you're tripping a little bit. I hear it in your tone, Shari. I hear it in your tone. Let me tell you what I mean.
I think flowers are great. I think it's great. I seriously think it's amazing.
I wanted something alive in here. You know, it really started with my sinuses. And I have, sinus issues, and that's like death for a singer. You don't want to be struggling with that.
And I have them, and I'm not a singer, so I can only imagine.
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
So some of what I've tried to do to improve it is put plants in the house to improve the air quality, right? And so just in kind of researching the plants and what I can do, what I have the time and the maintenance to, it's something cathartic about it. And then specifically for me, and that's what I mean by not being a monolith, my mom kept plants in the house when I was a child. I just forgot. And I took it for granted as a child, But now just thinking back on it, she always had plants in the house. And we had a little tiny house, Sherry. So it was like those plants were pervasive in the house. And I just didn't think about it until the other day. I brought these plants in. And I can't even explain to you the mystery that connects bringing these plants in the house and the joy I have even talking to you about them right now. I just have this joy. Thinking about the grace I've been given to steward over a living thing in my home that's going to benefit me. It feels good. But I'm telling you, I got homeboys right now that are snickering when they hear this. They'll be like, what are you doing?
Like, man, I'm trying to save your life. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to save my life and your life. How about that? Well, one of the things, Brian, one of the things that I find soothing and amazing is your new song, Inner City Blues. Make me want to holler. Let's hear that right now. When we come back, we're going to keep going with our conversation. That was Inner City Blues, Make Me Want to Holler by Brian Courtney Wilson. Now, Brian, is it appropriate for me to say that song is a bop? Can I say that?
Yes, I like that actually. I like that a lot.
I'm over here just turning up to this. Man, let me tell you something. Brian, you did your thing. And with that said, a lot of people may say, well, he's a gospel artist. He shouldn't be doing anything outside of gospel. What's wrong with him? But the cool thing about you, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the show, is that you are somebody who to me, you're a risk taker, in that you go with what you feel, what you believe, and where your gift takes you. And I think your gifting was perfect for this record, and it certainly still has a message that can speak to us all. What do you say to those people? Or even as an artist, have you ever struggled with, okay, I'm a gospel artist, yeah, but I have some other music in me that I want to express that may not necessarily fall in line with traditional gospel music?
I love your question, and I want to say a couple of things. First of all, I think we're coming out of Philly. Is that right with the show?
Yes.
I wanted to shout out Dana Saray. He's out in the Delaware area, and Eric Roberson sang the background on it. Dana Saray produced that song. Yeah, they're good friends, man. Just great people who, they love the Lord and they love just great music, and that wouldn't have jumped off the way it did. It wouldn't be a bop without their
great
contribution to the bop. Second thing is, I love the question. Because I do struggle with it. We struggle with even putting this out. That was a long discussion around putting this out for a few reasons. One, I didn't want to seem like we were trying to exploit what was going on. I don't ever want to do that. Whatever we put out, I wanted to help people,
Yeah.
And I had to get at, is this going to be seen as helping, Or will it help? Beyond is it seen as helping? Will it actually help? And so far, the feedback we've got is that it does. And the reason why that's important to me, and the reason why I have to consider, the way I've been framed in the marketplace as a gospel artist since I started, is because all of those things help to build trust. And you do things that are congruent with what people expect to a certain extent. And if you're going to go away from it, you got to kind of ease them. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying. I believe you know what I'm saying. I'm gonna try to articulate a little bit more. Whatever I do, I want it to ring with integrity. I want it to ring with some sense of consistency and integrity, because I know that my ministry, period, I don't care what kind of song I'm singing, is called to encourage and uplift and lift downtrodden heads and help people with their esteem. And it's hard to do that if people don't trust you when you're speaking to them. They don't really believe you when you're saying what you're saying. And so that's why I consider that. And as far as being a gospel artist in that regard, it is what it is. And people have their ideas about what that means. But I'm going to keep trying to chase after what I think is beautiful. What's beautiful and what I'm allowed to express in that regard. Yeah. What's beautiful, and that's what we'll do. And I appreciate you recognizing it as a good thing, and not just somebody that sounds flighty and doing whatever they want to do. I just really want to express what's in my heart.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, you took such good care of this record. I think, when you have to, it can be daunting to even attempt to do this record or put it out anyway, just because of the legend that is Marvin Gaye. But to take great care of it, everything to me just sounds so well packaged. And I just, I have to applaud you for that. And I'm a believer in, we look at the scope of music today. We look at gospel music. We even look at what this pandemic has kind of done to open the eyes of the church in a certain way. And we have to kind of think about, as a faith-based community, have we been too rigid? Are there ways in which we need to kind of open our eyes and ears and hearts to moving differently, not changing the message, but changing our movements? And so, even with that said, when we look at the gospel community musically, when we look at the church, do you think that, there are some ways in which we need to be bending a little bit more?
Bending a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's a tough question. Shari, like it's, that's a tough question because I don't even think the gospel community is a monolith. We were talking about that with black men. I don't think the gospel community is a monolith. I don't think everybody that's doing it is doing it for the same reasons. I don't think everybody's idea of what success in it is the same, and so it's hard one then to define, well, what is the gospel community? And then how do we get everybody who's quote unquote in that community on the same page? What I'll say for me is what I've really, been heavy on my mind. And I know you play basketball, so you'll understand what I'm saying when I say, as I hold my man, I'm responsible for my assignment on the court, is to be as honest as I can, to be as integrous as I can with the music, and to, for me, try to find as much common ground message-wise beyond just the confines of the gospel space. Like I enjoy talking to, I love talking to Bun B. That's one guy I talk to from time to time.
Shout out to Bun B.
Oh yeah, man, just because, he is true. He's true and real, and I love that concept here. You don't hear it often in church. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But ain't that what we're supposed to be going for? Being true.
That's right.
And real in a way where truth is revealed, and what's real blows your mind because you can do all things through Christ who strengthens us, right? So, once we start to consider what's real and what could really be real, once you apply faith to it, I think that the possibilities are endless. And so that's what I'm trying to do with my man as I hold my man in the gospel space.
I agree with you, Brian. And I think part of that comes from conversations. And that's part of the reason why, I created the gray areas, because I wanted us to have conversations that may not necessarily, hey man, shout out to Selena Johnson, who actually helped me with the name of this show. She's really good with the names. So she helped me with it. And it's like, you have to give credit where credit's due. I'm just saying, I don't have a problem with letting people know what time it is. But, I think that, in the faith-based community in particular, we shy away from conversations that I think are pertinent to our growth and living and leading holistic lives. And so to talk about, the injustices that are happening in our country, to talk about just how we feel, because just because you're a gospel artist, Brian, just because you're a Christian, just because I'm a Christian doesn't mean that we don't get upset. It doesn't mean that things don't
No
bother us. It
question.
doesn't
Yeah.
mean that we
Right.
don't have frustrations. And so I think that, you cannot get to revelation unless you have conversation. And so that's ultimately what this is about. And I go back to, I saw your interview for Music Mondays that you did couple weeks ago, and one of the things towards the end of your interview, because it was IG Live for those who didn't tune in, somebody kept commenting very crazy about
I saw that.
what the church was doing, and the church, how the church is misusing money and things of that nature. And it was interesting because there was a reserved fire in you that really, really got under your skin, but there was a way in which you expressed that was still loving. And so what would you say to people who are in the faith-based community who may be experiencing some frustrations with what's going on in our world right now, and maybe having a tough time trying to figure out how to express those in a way that doesn't necessarily compromise their convictions?
Oh my goodness, that is I was just talking to a mega pastor about this, because there was this video going around where a preacher, he cussed in the pulpit and he kind of caught his mouth. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw it.
And I said, I was kind of joking with some friends of mine. I said, man, he should have leaned into it. Not to say he was right, but more like,
right.
Man, he was getting at something that was honest and real with him, and probably something that they needed to hear. They needed to know how much it was going up inside of him. And so many times, for the sake of adhering to the social norms that are especially you're held to at church, we don't express it. We don't let it out. And what I would say to the people that care about the faith-based community, because when you care, you're invested. You show up, you try to help, you pray. Don't forsake, finding a therapist. Don't forsake finding a mental health professional, because they get paid to be a safe place for you to just let it all out and say what you need to say, as opposed to letting it bubble up and come out in ways that are not going to be productive for you. They also kind of give you, I think, the space to figure out, man, what is it worth? What do I really care about? What's really worth me dying on this hill for? And I know that's an extreme example, but what I mean is, I'm going to say it, and I don't care what you think, because it needs to be said. Yeah. Sometimes I think we got to shift through, and this pastor said this to me, he said you got to shift through the clutter in your mind and in your life to get to what's really important to you. In fact, I'm going to give you this, that one of my mentors has been challenging me with over the last 30 days, and that's to ask myself during this meditative practice, what brings me life and what drains it? Ask myself this every night before I go to bed. List those things so I can really bring some clarity to, man, what's worth investing into me and what's worth walking away from. And I'm saying that in the context of the faith-based community, because sometimes, we get caught up on stuff that in the grand scheme of things, it might not even be that important.
Yeah.
It might not even be worth the fight. You know what I'm saying? And maybe it is worth the fight to you, but don't just let it be dictated to you that's worth the fight. Is it really worth it to you?
Yeah.
Spend the time to get in touch with that gift of the Spirit that we all have because we believe, and hear what God is saying in terms of like, man, what should you be applying your passion to in this moment? And what that person in that moment that you referred to got at with me was, man, our churches matter, and I think they matter more than ever, especially to our Black community. They are institutions that we've invested in over the decades, and they are places of distribution of favor and resource even now. And I think flawed as they might be, and they have their flaws for sure, but they also have the ability to yield some fruit that'll matter to people that are going through. They've been doing it for decades, and it's worth, I think it still should be respected, bottom line.
Yeah. I agree. And
that's me.
One of the things
I've spent time on that. That's me.
I'm in agreement with you, Brian. I have to agree with you on that. And one of the things that you did mention was mental health, and I know that you're working with Mayor Sylvester Turner out in Houston for the Houston Health Equity Response Task Force. Can you kind of break down, the work that you guys are doing and some of the fruits of that labor that you've been seeing?
Well, they actually asked me to do some music for them and partnered with me on putting out live recordings of Inner City Blues and another song that's going to be released in a couple of weeks called Still. That kind of speaks to the positioning of your mind and how you face down the challenges that we're seeing today. It was a town hall that they were putting together to make sure people knew that information was available to them, to make sure that people, if they were going through, knew that they weren't alone in going through. And a lot of these resources are already in place, but, sometimes you could be going through so much that you don't know where to reach out to. And so this was an attempt to them to further what they've always done. That's why I love Mayor Turner and Janice Weaver, who brought me in. They have made concerted efforts to reach out to the faith-based community and make sure that if resources come through the city, they're administered by faith-based organizations here in the city, which is another reason why the church is important, because they have administrative systems in place to help distribute resources when they come in. And so I really just connected with them, and the Holy Spirit fixed that whole thing. I was calling Janice. I'm going to tell you the truth, Sherry. I was calling Janice just to have lunch with her and her staff, because I've been moved by the work they've been trying to do to manage this quarantine. And I just wanted to do it a socially distanced, safe way, have a little concert for them. And then she suggested, now, you know what? Why don't you come do this town hall, and we'll set it up any way you want to do it, and you just do the town hall. And so in terms of partnership, it's more everybody holding their man. They were doing what they were doing. I'm doing what I'm doing to make my music. And then I answered what was in my heart to help, to call her and say, how can I help you? Or can I help you? And she said, well, this is where I want to put you. Does that answer your question? Am I rambling a little bit?
That answers my question. And one of the coolest things about what you just said is, I've had some conversations recently with friends of mine about, how hard this pandemic has hit the entertainment industry, and how I don't really think the majority of those in the public understand the weight of loss that many artists have experienced. And I'm really taken aback in a good way by the fact that despite those odds and obstacles, you still are reaching out saying, how can I help you? When
can I
basically
say
you guys as a, yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Let me say something to it, because you started with mental health. It's because I have learned over the years that if you're in a spot, one of the best ways out of the spot is to help, to serve. Mm-hmm. Like if you need or you anticipate a need, if you're still breathing, you're still holding on to some seed, some 2 fish or 5 loaves of bread that could turn into a miracle for somebody else. But you got to avail yourself to it, and you have to have the dare I say, courage to let go of what you think you got to get done right now and spend some time reaching out to see if you can help. That's what I've learned. And so I want to say that to the people who may be experiencing some anxiety and stress and anguish about the future. I want to invite you, man, find a way to help. Find a way and see what happens. See if you can experience that peace that surpasses understanding. Because that's what I'm trying to tell you. Because you were going to ask me about my partnership, and I'm trying to tell you that there's really no good way to explain it. It surpasses understanding how that all came together. But it started with me just wanting to help.
It's interesting the level of God connections that friends of mine, family members of mine, even me to an extent, have been having during a time that is presumably a time of loss. God is still very much connecting people in ways that they otherwise may not have been connected in had this not happened. Before I let you go, Brian, I do want to ask you this. as you're moving through this challenging time, we have artists that are doing these virtual concerts, these drive up, sit in your car concerts. Kind of what's your strategy as you kind of maneuver through, this COVID-19 era?
I love the invitations when we get them to do these virtual concerts, and so I'm just really trying to tighten up my presentation in that regard. Mm-hmm. Over the years, you get used to doing it a certain way, and so now I'm forced to kind of recalibrate the best things about me and how we're going to deliver it. And so that's what I've been focusing on in that regard, and just continuing to create music when I can, and like I said, helping. Like, there are times when you really can help, and it ain't just about, you got signed to do an event or whatever, a contract or whatever. You show up and help when you can. And I've always seen that over the years turn into something crazy, miraculous. I just have seen it, I don't think I'm the only one. I don't think that's limited to gospel music. In fact, I know people that are in gospel music that can tell you the same story. They just showed up and helped, and it turned into something that blew their mind.
Well, you guys heard it. Brian Courtney Wilson, service. If you didn't pull anything else from this, service, service, service. Brian, how can people make sure they stay in contact with you and support all the amazing things you're doing?
You can go to my website. It's BrianCourtneyWilson.com. You can go to Instagram at Brian Courtney Wilson and Facebook at Brian Courtney Wilson.
And you can also stream his new release. It's called Inner City Blues Make Me Want to Holler, an adaptation of Marvin Gaye's classic record. It's hot. I played it earlier. If you missed it, you missed out, but you can stream it, so make sure you do that.
It's a bop.
Well, Brian, I want to thank you so much. I definitely want to have you back on sometime soon. I appreciate you. Stay safe, sir. Thank you very, very much. All righty. Have a good one. Happy Sunday. Thank you. It's my pleasure. And thank you all so very much for hanging out in the great area with me, Shari Nycole. And it's been a great day, great conversation. Brian Courtney Wilson, one of my favorite artists. He did not disappoint. Hope you guys were taking notes. And make sure you guys follow me at Shari, SHARI _ Nicole, NYCOLE on Instagram and Twitter. It's been a great one. Everybody have a great, great night. I'll talk to you guys again right here on Philly's Favorite 100.7 next Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern.